So, on behalf of the Cal Poly-SLO student chapter, we are proud to be hosting the 2012 West Coast Regional Conference for Engineering Without Borders. So, thank you guys for all coming today. Let's get a big round of applause. My name is Opdyke, and I am the chapter president. So, if you have any questions about today, we are really excited to be hosting it. This is sort of our thing, and we're really excited. I know there's been a lot of hard work put into this, so I hope you really enjoy the weekend. I think we have some great speakers. So I'd like to introduce Debra Larson, who is the Dean of the College of Engineering here at Cal Poly, to provide some opening comments.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And I'd like to welcome you to beautiful San Luis Obispo and Cal Poly. I'm so pleased that we, the College of Engineering, as well as our college's Engineering Without Borders chapter, are your hosts for the 2012 EWB West Coast Regional Conference. I really thank all of you for taking the trip to San Luis Obispo. I hear that some of you had some adventuresome trips trying to get in last night, right? Welcome to San Luis Obispo. Before I speak a little bit about this weekend's conference theme, I'd like to formally recognize a number of people. First, I want to recognize the work of our EWB team who are responsible for this weekend. Could our Cal Poly EWB members stand up along with their advisor, Professor Sema Altekkin, and let's wave and give him a round of applause. Come on, everyone, stand up. And we have many. I'll go ahead and list them. This will include Boeing, C.D. Smith, CH2M Hill, Wallace, Solar Turbines, Trailer Brothers, Sermonis, Simpson Strong-Tie, Chevron, and Cisco. And hopefully I count them all. This weekend would not have been possible without these partners. Let's go ahead and give them a round of applause. Thank you. And now I want to go ahead and talk a little bit and give some thanks to all of the academic folks that are here. First, I'd like to thank the Department of Construction Management and Rob Down of Earth Systems Pacific. Through Rob's efforts, your breakout sessions are being held at the recently built Construction Innovation Center, which I'm sure you're going to think is so cool. The CM department has opened their facility to you and this conference. We have a number of Cal Poly faculty who are also presenting this weekend, and I want to recognize and thank the efforts of Frank Owen, Mechanical Engineering, Ryan Alnes, Sociology, Jane Lair, Women's and Gender Studies, and Robert Ahrens from Architecture. Okay, that concludes our thanks. We have a great number of things going on, and now I just want to talk a little bit more about Cal Poly Learn by Doing and my own personal experiences with EWB. Not long ago, and not that far away, back around 2002, I was working as a faculty member at Northern Arizona University, which is in Flagstaff, Arizona. I had no idea. I've only been away from NAU for a year. I was actively involved in engineering education, and I was at the American Society of Engineering Education Conference in about 2002. That's when I first heard about EWB. Our keynote speaker that morning was Bernard Amati, a professor of civil engineering at the time at the University of Colorado Boulder. He was in the early stages of building the EWB-USA organization, fresh from his experiences of working in Belize with engineering students to install a simple, sustainable, low-tech clean water system. After that early speech to a group of about 40 civil engineering educators, I was hooked on EWB. Shortly afterwards, I became the department chair, which allowed me to advocate and support for the creation of EWB at NAU. A faculty member in my department named Paul.
Trotta?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say his last name, but now you know. A faculty member in that department named Paul Trotta, and a graduate student named Jared. Do you guys know Jared? He's old. Okay. And with some funding from the department, they were off and running. Like the experiences of many of you that you have had, the club grew by leaps and bounds. Their projects have spanned long-term relationships with the community in Uganda. Is that still going on?
Yep.
Yep. And another community literally in their backyards. It was a water project for the Loop family farms in the Navajo Nation. I can't believe. And over the course of 5 years, a new project had included the design, build of a water plaza, solar powerhouse, nurses' quarters, and a drip irrigation project, and I'm sure you have more to say. Okay, thanks. As engineers, we can choose to use our skills and knowledge in many ways and to contribute to the economic growth, humanitarian well-being, and sustainable ecosystems. Our human-to-human connection is ever so strongly evident with each and every one of you who are part of Engineers Without Borders. As I look out this morning at the start of this conference, I am encouraged by the future of our world and the role that you as engineers are going to play. All right, a little bit about you. You are all coming, besides any of you, you are all coming from across the large area of the Western region that includes California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, and I guess Arizona. Some of your organizations are old. Well, old in the sense of EWB, right? Given that the region was only established in 2004. And some of your organizations are very young. The region has 56 chapters, and today we have more than 22 chapters being represented at this conference. Today, we have members of the Alaska Professional Organization, the group that I believe traveled the farthest to get here. Please raise your hand if you're here in the audience. Hey, thank you. And we also today have probably the youngest club in the West, those students and advisors from San Francisco State University who just recently stood up their EWB chapter. Are you here this morning? They probably couldn't fly in last night. So let's give our colleagues who have traveled so far, our friends who are just joining EWB, a round of applause, and yourselves as well, because there's over 250 registered participants. One last thought. The conference theme today is Learn by Doing. This is a theme that resonates for me and for Cal Poly. If you haven't already been introduced to Cal Poly's Learn by Doing philosophy, you will be just by spending time here on campus. We are proud of our Learn by Doing traditions that not only bring doing into the classroom, but encourages and fosters Learn by Doing through co-curricular club activities just like EWB. Engineering is about doing. Learning is about doing. EWB turns your learning about engineering into doing for mankind. As a member of EWB-USA, you are committed to using your technical and professional skills to serve the world and assisting communities to sustain their capacity to meet basic human needs. I am very proud of all of you. In closing, I welcome you again to Cal Poly, to San Luis Obispo. I thank you for your commitment to EWB and the advancement of humanitarian efforts through engineering. Have a great conference.
So one just quick announcement I forgot actually at the beginning. If you parked in the structure out there, I know we were supposed to have paid parking today, but our university police department actually made a mistake, so they didn't print the passes, so it's free today. So don't worry about it if you're parked out there, you won't get a ticket or anything today. So I'd like to start by introducing a great speaker I think that a few of you probably know already. So I'd like to introduce our Executive Director for Engineers Without Borders, Cathy Leslie.
So what do you love about EWB? If I'm going too fast through the presentation, this presentation is also going to be posted on my EWB homepage, so you can find it later and get those links that you may have wanted to write down but didn't have time. So feel free to be tweeting as you go along. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Some of you know, some of you I don't know. I started my life on my own in the Peace Corps in the 80s in Nepal. And I was a water and sanitation engineer. And what that means in the Peace Corps is that you're working with a community, much like EWB, and you're working outside of major urban areas, again, much like EWB, and you're installing projects that the government wants, not necessarily that the community wants, but you're working with the community who's been lucky enough to receive funding. And Peace Corps prepares volunteers quite well. They put you through a 3-month training program, which is language immersion, and they send you out with this really nice kit of medicine, because you always get sick in the middle of nowhere and have no way to treat it. And so as a Peace Corps volunteer, moving into a community and being in that community for a couple of years, you get known as the people who have the medicine. You also get known as a CIA agent, but that's kind of a different time. So as a Peace Corps volunteer, you're sitting with your community, and this is much like you guys do. You go to your communities on an assessment, you're forming relationships. And one night, there's a knock on the door. And we open the door, and here's this young woman, very distraught. She's come to find Western medicine, and she has in her arms her child. And she unwraps the blanket away from this child, and this child's been severely burned. I couldn't do anything, didn't have the medicine for that, but moral support helps too. And as we talked to this young lady, we found out that her child had been crawling around the floor of her house, and she had a 3-stone fire, and she had a pan of boiling water on that fire, and that child pulled that boiling water off the fire onto themselves. Just think, if you're an EWB chapter, and you've done a cook stove project in that woman's community, and that woman has an actual cook stove that she can place her pan on, that the child can't reach. That's what EWB is here to do. We're here to make a real difference in the lives of people that lack access to many things, to clean water, to sanitation, to modern energy. A lot of the deaths in the world today are totally preventable, and they're preventable by engineering. So what we do isn't just a lofty goal. What we do has real life implications to people on this planet. And we owe it to them to make sure we're prepared the best we can be to make a difference. It's not enough to go install a pump that's going to work for 6 months. It's enough to install that pump and make sure the community can maintain it over time. So our vision is that world in which people have access to the infrastructure they need to meet their basic human needs, whether it's preventative in the case of the child, whether it's preventative in the case of children having diarrhea and dying, or whether it's an actual intervention now. So we support community-driven programs worldwide by collaborating with local partners to design and implement sustainable engineering projects. And at the same time, we become fundamentally changed. We gain additional leadership skills. We gain additional project management skills. And I think at the end of the day, we become better humans. So EWB, although we install engineering programs, engineering projects, we really provide human dignity so that somebody does not have to struggle, as Bernard says it, to stay alive by the end of the day. And it's through this that you all have chosen to spend a significant amount of time with the organization. And we appreciate it. And your communities really appreciate it because their hope is in you all. So fundamentally, we do small-scale infrastructure projects, and they're initiated by the communities. The communities drive these projects. These are their projects. We're lucky enough to be able to provide them with the technical expertise, but it is their project. And those projects are full partnerships with the host community or the local NGOs, and they have to be. We don't come from that culture many times. We don't know what's appropriate in those communities, and we don't know what's going to be sustainable there. So we're relying on communities and the local partners to make a contribution. And this isn't easy. This does not happen in 2 trips to a community. I think all of you who have long-term programs, can you raise your hands if you've been in your communities for more than 3 years? I know you have. This doesn't come easy. This is about relationships. And relationships aren't formed in one assessment trip. It takes time and it takes effort. But our communities are placing their trust in us to do this correctly. The last 10 years have been incredible for EWB-USA. Starting early on, from when Bernard was giving talks to inspire people, we've now grown to about 300 chapters around the country. Professional chapters are on the rise. So professionals, raise your hand. Students, pay attention to those who have their hands up. You will need that. We're working in 45 locations around the world. Domestic programs are coming back online, and they're in pilot program right now. And you can see the breakdown of our projects. Demographically, water is the largest project or largest portfolio in our bank, followed closely by energy, sanitation, and structures. This year, we served 243 communities with 264 projects. In 10 years, we've touched the lives of over 2 million people. And that's been work that you all have done. You have touched the lives of 2 million people. And that's incredible. We haven't done it alone. We've done it with our partners. And we've also done it with other groups of EWBers. So EWB-USA is within the family of EWBs around the world. Some of you may have worked with them. But if you haven't, reach out and touch them. We're starting to celebrate our successes. And we are having success. Communities are seeing access to market, to water, to schools, to energy, and people are experiencing a better quality of life. You, as members, are also finding that this experience brings with it challenges, but many rewards. You're better leaders, better designers, and better humans as a result of this experience. Early on, people thought that EWB was a travel experience. And today I think all of you understand that it is much, much more than that. We've seen our membership grow, and it's been wonderful to see the success in both the communities. And I'd like to play for you a short little film that demonstrates this.
In June 2012, Engineers Without Borders from University of Maryland College Park traveled to Opdyke, Ethiopia. EWB-UNCP has held a relationship with the community for the last 4 years. We have collaborated on designing and implementing various projects, including a concrete bridge and community center. This phase of the project primarily focuses on the community marketplace. During the annual rainy season, the marketplace experiences numerous difficulties, including issues with sanitation, organization, and traffic. Our chapter is designing a stormwater management system to help control and treat this water in a way that is ultimately beneficial to the community. The goal of our assessment trip was to collect enough information in just 11 days to design an entire stormwater treatment system back home in College Park. We worked with the community members to perform various hydrologic tests, soil samples, survey the marketplace and surrounding areas, and discuss potential design options. This EWB project is unique in that the social constraints drive the design. This marketplace is somewhat of a social hub of the community, so all engineering decisions are coupled with equally important social considerations. In other words, this isn't just a technical solution, it's a multifaceted response. We've encountered our fair share of obstacles along the way, and we are swiftly making progress towards the final design. Over the fall 2012 semester, we plan to complete our design and then implement the final system this coming winter. What sets engineering.org apart is that we work directly with the community of Opdyke every step of the way to form a strong partnership. The community has an investment in this project, ensuring that the design is embraced by the townspeople as a sustainable long-term solution. As we look forward to implementation, our team of students, mentors, and professional engineers are all excited to return to Ethiopia to live with and work with the community of Opdyke on our sustainable marketplace design.
And we're also celebrating our members. Our members are problem solvers. They get their hands dirty, their pictures don't show up, and they pour a lot of sweat, energy into solving some of the biggest global challenges. And we actually have one of them in the audience today, Chad Norvell. Stand up, Chad. He was the EWB-USA Student Founder of the Year last year. And so nominations are now open for this year's set of candidates. So will one of your pictures not show up next year? And we've also learned a few things. We've learned many lessons along the way, and this is an assortment of some that have come in. My own personal favorite, bring bug spray. I brought malaria home from Nepal. Luckily it was balanced by a husband, so it was kind of okay. But you don't want to bring malaria home. And you need to understand the organization in which you're working. We have a limitless capacity of motivated, high-achieving members. We strengthen community-driven, and we drive true partnerships with our local communities. So what are the lessons that you've learned? Let's talk about them, and let's share them with everyone else. As an organization, we've learned a couple of big lessons as well in the last 10 years. And we've learned that successful projects are equal to high-functioning chapters. And those chapters have mentor teams, they have quality control, and they have educated members. And we've learned as an organization that our role is really about the sharing of best practices, the definition of a monitoring, evaluation, and impact program, the creation of educational courses of excellence, and organizational fundraising. So this year, you're going to see a shift in the EWB-USA headquarters office. We are going to lift the restriction on new programs as long as you are a high-functioning chapter. You all are going to have the autonomy and the responsibility to make sure your programs are good programs. We'll be providing quality assurance, but we're no longer going to do the detailed quality control. And in return, we are going to focus on best practices, monitoring and evaluation, education, and organizational fundraising. So let's be very clear about this. In order to have an additional program within your chapters, we're going to be expecting more, and we're going to be expecting your teams to be functional teams. So what am I talking about when I say this? Mentor teams. It's not enough to have one mentor that handles the technical component of what you're doing, but you need to have international, technical, and construction experience on your mentor team. Doesn't mean all of them will travel, but that you have access to all of that expertise as you work on your program. And the same with quality control. we're going to be expecting a deliberate quality control process, and that's very different from an academic peer review process. It is a quality control process by which every detail of your design, including your design alternatives, is checked. And we're going to expect that you as members are educated members, that you know our mission and vision, that you know our principles of development, and that you know our design philosophies. If your chapter has all of those things and can demonstrate that, then additional programs are much easier to get. So what do I mean when I say mentor teams? Reaching out for student chapters, reach out to the professional chapters. There's typically experience there that you have not been accessing. All of the chapters need to reach out into the Return Peace Corps Volunteer Network. So how many ex-PCVs are in the room besides me? There's 2 of us. There's a few more. I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of Return Peace Corps volunteers on the West Coast. Reach out into those networks. They have the international experience that you're looking for. Your civic organizations. I went to a university and they said, we have a really hard time finding people who work in Guatemala. And I pulled out my phone and I Googled Guatemala Civic Organizations, Milwaukee. And I found 20 of them. So reach into your civic organizations and communities in which you all live or go to school. They're there. But you can also work with your state representatives. Any state reps in the room? Dino, stand up. If you can't find your mentors, go to Dino. And we have tools available. We have a guide to finding a mentor. We have the mentor evaluation forms, mentor statement of intent, mentor qualifications, an unofficial guide to mentoring. We have a mentor database, which Dino can get to. And we have proposals coming out of the different regions as to how they're going to support their chapters with mentors. So keep in mind, the requirements for mentors and project leads are not just student chapters, they are all chapters. Each chapter must have a team of mentors or project leads that know what is happening with that project, even though one of them may travel. And then start a LinkedIn group amongst yourselves or amongst the regions to share what works and what doesn't work. As far as quality control goes, reach into the professional chapters. I can tell you that any professional in a professional chapter that does engineering projects for work has a quality control process. We all do it. I did it at Tetra Tech. We all do it. And it's a very different thing than a peer review at a university. Your quality control, they'll start with why you picked the design that you picked, where the materials are locally available, and they'll take it all the way to checking your hydraulic grade lines, or your energy calcs, or your flow lines, to make sure that that project's appropriate to go. So student chapters. How many of you reach into your professional chapters that are located near you? Some of you? Great. But we also know that there are student chapters that have no professional chapters near them. Reach into your local engineering firm. It's a great way to get them involved. It's a great way to get your quality control. And, you know, if they throw a little funding your way, that works too, right? We also have example documents on our website. So if you haven't gone under the technical resources and looked at the example documents, there's a bunch out there as to what makes a good submittal. So we're at the national office are expecting you all to do the quality control. We are a final double check, and we may not look at your specific design before you go implement it anymore. You're going to be hearing from us less, but we're going to be there. We're really relying on you all to make sure that you do quality work. And we've been working hard on educational resources. How many of you knew that we had a strategic plan? Yes, it's on the website. EWB has actually laid out a 10-year vision of where we want to be. We have set out our principles of development. both in document form and in webinar form. We've placed technical webinars out there. And if you're doing a water project, the 3-part series on water projects is probably where you need to start. We've put more project resources out there. We've put more chapter resources out there. These regional conferences are a great way to get started too. Personal networking is always the best. So if you have a project in a country, go find another chapter here that has a project in that same country. We've made it easier for you all to find each other on the website and to reach out and talk. And then we have a chapter resource guide that's available as you come back to this year. So what are we going to do now that we're not going to be looking at all of those nice reports you turn in all the time? We're actually looking at 1 year's worth of monitoring and evaluation so we can find lessons that we can share across the EWB platform via best practices. And we're doing that via Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and again, we're monitoring reports. So those reports are extremely useful for us to be able to disseminate that knowledge to the EWB-USA group. We're working on defining what monitoring and evaluation means to EWB. So today, your chapters are responsible for monitoring your programs as you're in the community. But once you leave, then what happens? That's what we're in the process of answering. Once you leave, if that pump breaks in 2 years, who's responsible? Are you? Is EWB-USA? Or do we say to that community, you're on your own now? Who goes in to look and see if they need more training? Or if the people doing O&M are no longer there? Who is that going to be? And if you have an opinion on that, we'd really love to know, because those are questions that we're trying to sit down and answer. And then we're going to take monitoring and evaluation 1 step further. We're going to look at impact. So for those of you who do cook stoves, is it enough to do a cook stove project and solve the indoor air pollution? Not to understand that once you solve the indoor air pollution, mosquitoes and termites move back into the house? What net impact did you have in that house? A good one or a bad one? So we're going to look at impact, because we're all spending a lot of time, a lot of resources, and so are our communities. We need to make sure we're doing this for the right reason. We're going to create courses of excellence, or educational modules. We can no longer do one-to-one education via phone calls or on projects. We have to put those into technical courses or education modules that more than a small group of people can do. So we're working on that. We're looking at launching the first set of them by January, and there's some out there right now. And then the other exciting thing that we're going to do is organizational fundraising. We now know about our water portfolio. Did you all know that we spent $1.9 million last year doing water projects around the world? Pretty cool, isn't it? So, as an organization, we can go get that funding, and that funding will translate down to funding at the chapter level. That's what we think our role is at the national office. It's not doing quality control for one project, for one chapter. It's really looking after the entire organization. So you will see a fundamental shift in our office. We may not be as available. We may not look at 100% of your reports. But in return, this is what we're going to be doing. And you'll see that come out in our e-blogs. So as I said, today, chapters utilize the monitoring and reporting within the project process, and it's really important. It shouldn't be an afterthought as you get to the tail end of that report. But we're designing the rest of the evaluation and impact program in the next 6 months, and you'll be hearing from us about that, and that will be implemented in the fall next year. We are setting up 3 proficiency levels in our education. We're talking about a certificate program. So awareness, competent, and mastery, depending on where you are in your career in EWB. And we'll be setting out 3 competency areas: self-awareness, global context, and technical applications. As I said, we're rolling this out in January. And I have to tell you that within our corporate sponsorship, they're really excited about this. because what they're telling us is the employees that come to work that have EWB experience, you're double engineers because you get it. You have that leadership. You have that global context, and they don't have to teach it to you. So this is translating to real impacts on your lives as you move forward into industry. So these are what we have going on, but it doesn't do us any good to do all of this unless we know that that's what you want. So if you're going to do one tweak, this entire presentation, this is the one to do. What should EWB-USA be doing to support your community, your chapter, and you? And we want to know, because we want to provide tools that are useful to you, not that are barriers to you, but that are useful. So I'm going to talk a little bit about tools for the rest of this presentation. How many of you saw in eBlast this last week that we now have fundraising pages? So for those of you who don't get our eBlast, that means one of two things. We don't know that you're members, or you've checked that box that said you didn't want to hear from us. Either way, I would either become a member or uncheck that box, because we're putting out a lot of opportunities in that eBlast for you. So these are fundraising pages where you can fundraise for your chapters through the HQ website. And you can see the tag here. And you will need to do this for the year-end matching campaign. Okay? Our year-end matching campaign, how many of you participated last year in that? Great, we're doing it again this year. We're up to about $125,000 match. We hope to have enough up to $250,000 in 2 weeks available for chapters to compete for. But you will need to put your fundraising page up. How many of you participated in our grants program this year? Should be quite a few. This year, we awarded